Welcome to the Best Kept Business Secret podcast. I am Mark Ford, coach, author and editor here at Your Best Kept Business Secret. Today's podcast is the second of a two-parter. Now, many small businesses struggle with that PR, generally because they're not sure what it really is. If it's only for big companies and they get big London-based PR firms to do it, it's not for them. But in this podcast, I'm again talking to Lucy Werner, who's made it her mission to help entrepreneurs, freelancers and small business owners like you get the PR that you deserve with that little bit of DIY. And if you haven't already, please do like, subscribe or review to the podcast to get the latest ideas, thoughts and strategies that you can implement today, tomorrow or next week and help you get the business that you deserve. So let's get stuck into part two. So the next part of the book, you talk about one-liners, and I've been really specific in my one-liner because when I was creating it and I was creating the brand, so to speak, there's a story behind my brand, but then people didn't quite work out what I did. It was a great conversation piece. They never quite worked out what I did. So I had to work really quite hard on sort of like getting my one-liner to sort of like mean what it was that I did effectively. So how do you actually create a one-liner to sort of, so that it grabs people's attention?
With great difficulty. The one-liner is the hardest thing.
That's very honest of you. I appreciate that.
It's really difficult. And an American said to me recently, "Oh, so you wrote in your book, like if someone can't tell you what it is they do in one sentence, you think that they're boring." Like, yeah, I mean, I kind of
that coming from an American. Wow, really?
I was like, I kind of did, but it was trying to back pedal, and then realised I'd actually committed those words into print, so she wasn't wrong. I think part of it is, especially British people, don't actually have a lot of confidence in saying what it is that they do. And we feel a need to fill the space by saying everything that we do. But actually, if you just say your name and what it is you do on a very basic level in a way that people are going to understand, it leaves space to ask more intrigue. So obviously you gave me a delightful intro earlier of all the things that I do. But if I just drilled it down to, I run a PR, graphic design and branding agency, you go, oh yeah, I know what she does. And then you might go, so what specifically, so you're like a traditional PR agency, you retain clients. We might then have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. But if I start to say all of the things that you used in the intro, someone in a general conversation or as a pitch to media, they're going to get lost or bored pretty quickly. They just literally need to know what you're an expert. If you're pitching yourself as an article writer, someone just needs to know you're an expert. They don't need to know your life story. And I think there really is a tendency for people to really waffle on. So yeah, how you do the one-liner, it's not easy. I think basically you write sort of several different versions and you have to red pen yourself. You write down everything and then you literally just go with the most simplistic form and leave space for that intrigue. And I always try and like back pocket a few fun facts as well, if you can, just to make you sound a bit different.
Okay. Again, that's pretty much where I came up with my brand, the Best Kept Business Secret. Was, there's a story behind that, and the fact that, the first two clients that I had and I was doing really well with, I asked for recommendations and they said no, and I went, what? And they went, no. Why would we give our Best Kept Business Secret to anybody else? Aha. So that's where it came from. But when I was sort of like saying that to people, it was a case of, well, actually, no, what do you do? And if I just say the words business coach, everybody goes, and sort of like withers away. Yeah, exactly.
Especially with Halloween, they're like,
they get the cross out and all that sort of stuff and start dousing me with holy water. But when I then sort of like turn around and I just sort of like say, look, I just help.
Got such a PR problem. A PR's got a PR problem as well. Like there's just certain, but then I think I was having this conversation the other day with another entrepreneur. I think anybody within their own industries think that their own industry has a PR problem, and actually, to the wider world, they probably don't.
Yeah, but I'd agree that business coaching does have a little bit of a PR problem. I'll leave it there before I get attacked by about 30 others that will just like hit me over the head with their franchise books. So moving on. Right. So boilerplate. Right. Now, I love that phrase. All right. Because it made me immediately think of my ex-mother-in-law. But, all right. Just did. So tell us what a boilerplate is, because I absolutely love the phrase. And then when I read about it, I went, aha, that is a winner. I love it. So tell us about a boilerplate.
So, essentially, in a really simplistic way, is your business bio. It's the bit of copy about your business that never changes. So when you are pitching your business out there, or you're asking to be a guest on a podcast, or you're putting an award entry together, you're going to speak at an event, people are going to ask you for like a bit of info about your business. So whenever let's say like with your business, you've got 4 press releases that go out a year. So one's the launch of the platform. Next is a senior hire that you've just taken from Apple, for example. Like think about your different like releases that you're doing. That bit at the bottom, the boilerplate's never going to change. So yeah, that's it, basically.
That's the bio. No, it's fine. And it's sort of like it's been something that I've been talking about for many years, actually, when people are talking about themselves, just generally in business. And there's a little trick that I try and employ, is that when people write these things, they make an awful lot of assumptions. So I always say, right, okay, you write down 5 words that somebody would want to say, that you would think people would say about you or your business when you've passed on to another world. Okay, those are the 5 words. All right, so they should really be in your boilerplate at some point. However, then go and ask your customers what 5 words they would use. And do you know what the gap between your perception of what you think you are and their perception of what you are? If they're really close, well done you. But I'm probably looking around about 70% of the time, actually the gap is quite huge. So when people are saying, I'm friendly and approachable, actually sort of like we barely hear from you, and you're a bit crap at communication.
But I think that's very much like a branding exercise as well. So I'm actually working on the second version of that book with Adrian, my partner, because he's French and dyslexic. Writing is like not his. Writing in English is definitely not his bag. So I'm essentially writing it in my tone of voice, but it's all of his knowledge. And we've been going through like the same sort of version of PR, but with branding. And that sort of values exercise of getting your audience or your friends or your family to tell you. Again, for Brits, it's a really excruciating exercise, but it's so valuable because it's also in line with, I always ask somebody, what's your dream piece of press coverage? And it really gives me an idea of, are they aiming high enough, or are they aiming too low, or are they spot on? And it's the same when you're talking about words to describe yourself, because some people really don't recognise just how brilliant they are.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Again. Yeah. I mean, it's a very British trait, isn't it? I suppose that we don't like to shout about ourselves, and actually we just go, yeah, it's just kind of what I do, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how important are images? Yeah, we know about Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all that sort of business, but how important are images when it comes to PR? Look, just in a world inundated with photos, what kind of photos should you be looking for as a small business to use in your PR? Is it always about you, or is it, what kind of images should you be depending on what business you are?
So I actually always encourage all businesses. We'll cut that out later, sure.
No, we'll keep it in. Don't worry, it's fun.
These are the bleepers. I always encourage all small business owners to get photos of themselves and nothing else, because you are investing in yourself. Once you spend that money, you'll actually be forced to use them. Also, the amount of times that I've had to rig up like entrepreneurs for interviews, and the only headshot they've got is of them against like a back of a toilet door or on holiday with the sunglasses and a glass of wine. It's like, when I see that on LinkedIn now, I'm like, you all have smartphones. Like, literally put it on timer and hold it away from yourself on your white office walls that I've all seen you in, that you've been working from home in like for the whole summer. You better get riled about it. Also, the landscape headshot is for the win. So if you think about any business page, any national newspaper, right, would open it, it is like landscape. So if you have a landscape image, and literally I've used this trick so many times, that every time I've submitted landscape images of my clients or myself, it's dominated the article because it's fitting what that page needs. So actually picture editors need those landscape shots. And if you're thinking about like articles online, if it's a feature and they're using guest experts, for example, and you're scrolling online, they're not going to break up copy with a big portrait shot. So they've got a landscape image of somebody. It sits right in the middle of the text beautifully. It's literally, I feel like I wang on about this hack all the time. Every time I say it, people are like, wow, it's amazing. And I'm like, I don't know how, I've literally said it so many times now. Why are you not all doing this? Like, it's just such a simple win. That and having high-res shots ready. And actually, I was a failure in this yesterday. So technically, I'm not doing client work, right? I'm just working on my DIY stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously, I have clients because I've got to pay my bills. But also, I like to flex that publicity muscle. So I can't be telling you how to do PR and not always be doing it. So I had an old client that I'm doing some work on, and he's a death tech business. And I literally, as it's on like half term, I checked my emails quickly. And it's like, have you got any high-res images of the coffins you can send me immediately? That's a sentence I wasn't expecting to send. And I was suddenly like, I don't. So I was WhatsApping him being like, hi, can you send me the coffin? Can you send me the coffin? Like frantically having this like random chat. And saying, did you get my message about the high-res of the coffins? Yeah, like, as I'm walking around like the playground amongst the other parents thinking, oh, I literally sound like a nutter. And it was like that sort of adrenaline where I was like, if we get the picture in, we're probably guaranteed to get into the magazine article, so we need to hurry up and do it. And I was like, this is literally PR 101, Lucy, that when you work with anybody, the first thing you do is get the high-res images of them and have them on file prepared. And it's going to be my Instagram post today where I talk about it, because it's like I tell everybody to do it all the time and then didn't do it for myself. But, that's what we all do as pros. We tell everybody else how to do it because we know how the best way is to do it, and then have to still sort out our own websites or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's very
typically,
yeah.
Images are super important. And if you can't afford to do it, like, I don't encourage people to work for free, but like when we started out and Adrienne joined the business and we were trying to rake money in, we did a skill swap with somebody. So he did a bit of branding and design for us to get some new photos together. So see if there are ways that you can trade what you do to get headshots if you really can't afford to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. And the guy that's recently done mine is the miracle worker, because I'm at the age of 46 and I realized that ain't getting any better anytime soon. And it made me look handsome. He's a miracle worker. Wow. I recognise myself.
He does Photoshop as well, does he?
Yeah, he does Photoshop, really. I know, honestly.
Wow.
I look like 20 years younger. No, I don't. No, it's rubbish. Right.
You're not bad, babe.
Thanks,
worry.
mate. Cheers. I appreciate
Right,
it. You can come back. We like you. Right. So let's talk about the things that have kind of shifted in the current climate regarding PR. So before we came on air, obviously we were talking about a lot of hospitality, the pub and bar industry, which, if people have been following me, they will know that I think that certainly here in the UK, we have missed a frickin' trick. A lot of pubs and bars and restaurants have missed a massive trick, but it is what it is. Instead of just reopening, they should have reset and then reopened and come up with something different. But what kind of things should we really be talking about now? Going through the second wave, coming out potentially in the new year, maybe living with this for another 6, 12 months, whatever we've got to live with this for. When it comes to PR, what kind of things should we really be talking about now, as opposed to necessarily ourselves, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one because I am not a business coach and I'm not an expert on how businesses should pivot in the pandemic, but I definitely think that the venues that I've seen who've done well publicity-wise have pivoted, have looked at doing an alternative service, have been doing things with their community, have been maybe partnering up locally to do sort of home deliveries, or they've been packaging up with like other wholesalers so that it's more than just more than just getting like a pint delivered to your house. It's like a DIY cocktail kit, or it's we're going to give you the stuff and you can make your own pizzas from our in-house chef team or whatever it is. I've a lot of pubs locally here off the back of, and I don't want to get into this massive one, but off the back of obviously the Tories voting for no school vouchers, a lot of our local pubs have been doing free lunches for families that can't afford to eat. Like where I live in Hackney, there's a particularly high number of families who need those vouchers. So there's been a lot of community work there. So they've been getting featured in that way. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying to do community work to get press coverage, but what I am saying is that in the current climate, we need stories of positivity and we need stories of goodwill. So if your business is doing things in that space, you should be shouting about it, because we all need to be uplifted. And actually, off the back of the first wave, and I'm seeing it already for the second wave, there is a trend and a need for positive news. And there's positive news outlets now springing up all over the place, but also where a lot of newspapers are now shifting to more digital content and online. They are looking for people who are doing good or good in the community to showcase, because people, I don't know about you, I felt like at the beginning of the pandemic, I was watching Bojo on TV every day. And now, like, I see my BBC breaking news alert and I just think, I'll just wait to read whatever the breaking news alert is later, because you're just going to tell me what it is. Like, we're all getting a bit disillusioned from it. We all need lightheartedness. So I think in terms of like what small businesses are doing, again, like we mentioned it earlier, they are in an agile place to be quite reactive and to change what it is that they're doing and to be shouting about that. And I think the real power is when we collaborate as small business communities together. And it's not just shouting about when you're winning, it's also shouting about when you're struggling. So if you need to do a crowdfunder, get your local regional paper involved. Like if you need to be pivoting your services and you need other businesses to collaborate to be using your space on the times that you can't open, or whatever it is that you can do, shout out and say what it is that you need. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from working in the small business community is when we shout out, say, I need help with X, like we all rally round. We just need to be told, right? Like I was in a bit of a predicament last summer when my second child was born, and a lot of people would say to me, tell me what you need, and I couldn't. So because I couldn't, people couldn't help. But other people would be like, I think you need food, so I'm going to send you some food. I think you need this, so I'm going to send you drinks. I think you might need someone to clean your house. So like one of my mates came around and cleaned my house. I think your other son needs a play date. And actually, like when you're in the midst of panicking about your business, you can't always say to people what it is you need help with. But if you can, going back to that sort of crisis PR chat that we had, but taking that step aside and being like, what is it you need? What do you need help with? And who in the community can help you with that? Because when we all pull together, we can do some amazing things.
We can. You're absolutely right. I mean, the one thing that
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, that's not a problem. The one thing that I've probably noticed, and I think is going to become more prevalent, especially when it comes to PR, I think will be trust. It's a very underrated word when it comes into business, because actually as business owners, we don't tend to talk about it an awful lot, but our customers and our clients and our consumers will always have that element of trust, because it's know, like, and trust. They trust you, they're going to buy from you. And I actually think that trust sort of coming up into the next 6 to 12 months is going to be a huge thing. I follow several people that have been talking about the fact that almost every country that's in lockdown can almost be split into three pieces. The first piece is that, you've got the section of the community, students, the younger people that will just go out no matter what. So if you reopen, they're going to come to your venue, which is great, but they're not as affluent. You've then got the wait and sees, which will be the people that will wait a few weeks. They want to see how the first lot get on. Yeah, because if there's another spike or another outbreak, they're not coming out. It's as simple as that. And then you've got the third one, which is we're almost going to wait for a vaccine type thing, which is actually probably the older type of society, which is actually probably the more affluent type of society as well. And I think when it comes to hospitality, when it comes to venues of entertainment, places like that, when they do reopen or they reset and reopen, I believe that I truly believe that they're almost going to have to go on a massive PR splurge to actually go, look, we want to be as transparent and as open as we can be, deliver you great service, great great food, great products, great services, whatever, but this is how safe we are. We have taken all these precautions to make sure that we don't make you ill. It's as simple as that. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's an internal policy at MailChimp, and he says like, listen hard, change fast, learn constantly. And I actually think that applies really well to crisis PR and pandemic. Even like when you think about like the Black Lives Matter movement earlier on this year, everybody suddenly saw people posting black squares and posted black squares, right? And then they suddenly realized they were clogging up the Black Lives Matter feed using the hashtag. And so they suddenly had done it wrong. It's like, you know what? We all have good intentions. And as small business owners, we all have brilliant intentions within the pandemic to be supporting our customers, to be supporting our audiences. So I think sometimes it is just sitting back and listening hard and speaking to them about what it is they need, what do they want, how can we help them. And that kind of old school clipboarding is sort of forgotten about, but actually really taking that time out to speak to your audience about what do they need, how do they want to be spoken to, like what is their biggest challenge. I use a tool called Mentimeter quite a lot, which is a word cloud, and I ask people to tell me what it is that stops them from hyping themselves. So I've now got this word map of all the words that they use, and it's not necessarily what I think it is that stops people, you know? So we all have a thing, we've all worked in our own spaces for such a long time that we don't necessarily know what it is that's stopping our audience. And going back to those 3 people you just described, like finding out what proportion your audience is in those pools and then tailoring your communications accordingly, because you might think actually it's all X and it could be Y. So yeah, I 100% agree. I think community and honesty and transparency is really going to come through. I think businesses, even bigger businesses, we can see that like those that have more of a ethical and sustainable message behind them perform like better. And I hope that is just going to trickle down more into the small business space, that, you know, we can really learn that actually. I don't know if you did this, when I started out, I put up like this big website where I was like, I'm disruptive and innovative, and I had these big images.
Yeah. We've all done that.
I tried to make it. I was like, I'm a global brand. It's like, just say who you are. It's so much more relatable. And I tell you what, like I get way more new business feeds now when I'm like, I'm working part time with 2 kids, only 3 days a week, so I don't want to be here all the time, right? Now I'm constantly like, no thanks. Like I could do some coaching with you, but I'm not doing your PR. Like, it's really weird. But it's because I'd say in the last 20 months, I've been really pushing my profile, and putting myself as the face of the business has completely changed it. So I think for everybody else out there, putting themselves out there is going to really help with that trust.
It's paramount. Lucy, I've absolutely loved this. Can we have you back on again? I'd love to have you back on. Right, well, I'll tell you what. We'll get you back on after Christmas, all right? And then it would probably all changed again. And then you can tell us how you're getting on with the new book as well. All right.
Yeah, I could bring the French co-founder.
Absolutely, yeah. Bring the French co-founder. That'd be cool.
Co-founder of the children, not the business, right? That's
all right. Okay, you're right. Okay, that's cool. Okay. Right. So obviously, I'm going to put links to the book in the show notes. Lucy, where can people find you?
So I'm mainly playing on Instagram at the moment, which is at Wern Chat, because obviously, if you listen to this, I am a chatty Wern. So it's all my chat on there, but I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I have a monthly newsletter called Hype Yourself, where I literally give sort of PR tips and share other stuff in the small business community. Just a nice little monthly thing. And I'm doing a bit of a Christmas bundle, if I can shout out that. Doing a Christmas bundle on my book and cards. So have a look out for my social media on that. I think I'm going to be mocked up as the Grinch or Mariah Carey. I'm not sure yet who I'd rather be. To announce my little Christmas deal. I'd
much rather you sort of look like Mariah Carey than the Grinch. I've got to be honest.
All right, I'll pass it on.
That's just a personal thing, obviously. Lucy, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Lucy Werner, thank you. How many knowledge bombs are there in there? Seriously, wow, honestly, massive. All the links to Lucy and what she does are in the show notes, so go and have a look. And if you want more stuff like this, don't forget to visit our podcast channel, our YouTube channel, and our website, and subscribe to the latest ideas, thoughts, and strategies to help you get the business that you deserve. I'm Mark Ford. You have been brilliant, and I will see you on the other side.